Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of Sequel Decay, where we struggle to get through the day, one franchise at a time. I'm Chris Ranta, and with me is Stefan Salehio.
Hello.
And Brandon Pollock.
What up?
And today, the day we're recording this, is John Waters' birthday. So in honor of that, we're going to talk about the Avengers.
Maybe one of these days we won't do a cape shit movie.
Maybe next week.
Just kidding. We're in a loop.
This is fucking groundbreaking.
This is when we say sequels, we exclusively meant superhero franchises because that's the only movie being made right now.
Hey, on the bright side, at least we don't have to do Transformers on.
Oh, so we're doing Avengers today.
We're doing Avengers.
The first two.
The Whedon years. Today we'll be doing the Whedon years, starting with 2012's The Avengers, and then followed by 2015's Avengers: Age of Ultron. Stefan, why don't you tell us a little bit about Avengers 2012?
Marvel's The Avengers, or simply The Avengers, is directed and written by Joss Whedon, and possibly more importantly, produced by Kevin Feige. And it stars characters returning from their individual Marvel films, such as Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark / Iron Man, Chris Evans as Captain America / Steve Rogers, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner / The Incredible Hulk, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, and Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. Also returning is Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury and Tom Hiddleston as Loki. The movie was released in 2012 and instantly became the third highest grossing movie of all time.
Well, when this movie came out, wasn't it like the first, not, I didn't say first of its kind, but like first in, I guess, a modern kind of setting where it's like a group of movies over 4 years of movies combining into one.
The Avengers is kind of the culmination of this ongoing project that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is, for all intents and purposes, like a series of, like an anthology series that occasionally culminates into one massive event, much in the same way that the comic books that it's based on are.
Yeah, think the Twilight Zone, but with 100% more cape shit.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one thing I do want to bring up, because you called it Marvel's The Avengers, because I'm assuming you're looking at the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I am.
I love the Blu-ray because it says it's called Marvel's The Avengers, and the Marvel logo's at the bottom, so it's clearly called Marvel's The Avengers Marvel.
Well, it's because there was a different Avengers movie that came out in 1970 something.
Yeah, that's true.
The 90s, yeah, 70 something. Jesus.
Well, it was based on a TV show from like the 60s or 70s, and then they made that terrible 90s movie with Uma Thurman, which is actually the one we're gonna be talking about. April Fool's bitches.
The MCU is kind of interesting in the fact that it's this really like new development in not just movies but culture, I guess, where movies are made with the explicit purpose of not only doing a self-contained story and selling the products associated with that movie, but also selling future movies.
That's true.
Yeah, because yay corporate culture.
We live in a society.
Is this going to turn into like a political
I am absolutely going to spend the next hour talking about critical theory, and you can't stop me.
Stay tuned, folks. Buckle your seatbelts. We're going for a bumper ride.
Listen, Adorno and Horkheimer said.
Anyway, to quote Marshall McLuhan,
the medium is the message.
Movie is favorite type of art medium.
I hate my degree.
That's why. So, Stefan, Brandon, what do you guys think of the Avengers?
I really like this movie, as I did when I was a child.
I do still like the movie. I liked it a lot better when I first saw it, because like we said, we didn't know all of the now future information that we know from the newer movies.
It's not only that, but it's also the first time really in at least major blockbuster history that we've seen a franchise build up these characters for 4 years and then just have them all team up in one go.
I don't like how you're slandering King Kong versus Godzilla.
Which one?
The new one?
Is there a new one?
No. Yeah, they're gonna make one with Adam Wingard directing it. You know, the asshole who made that Death Note remake?
I prefer the old 50s King Kong where it's just two guys in terrible costumes.
You mean the 30s King Kong? The original came out in 33.
Sure.
Speaking of the Great Depression, let's talk about how we just marathon the Avengers movies.
Oh, I watched Age of Ultron twice in one day, and I want the sweet kiss of death.
We're not there yet.
You just want to get laid.
I don't care at this point. The movie opens with Loki being given a job by an extraterrestrial race known as the Chitauri, to invade Earth and retrieve the Tesseract, which for all intents and purposes is just this movie's designated MacGuffin.
Can we just talk about the first shot we see of Loki in the movie for a quick second? Because you see, it's like he starts at the bottom of the screen, he comes up, and you see his face slowly, I don't know, pan into view, I guess is the correct term for it, or whatever it is. His face just comes up, and it looks like the fucking Joker. Because his face is so maniacal.
Tom Hiddleston is a very elven-looking
Well, you were
figure.
saying this earlier, Stefan, where it's like he can look equally menacing as well as hot as fuck.
Well, that's because Tom Hiddleston's incredible.
And yes, we're all slightly gay
yeah.
for Tom Hiddleston. Just put it out there now.
We're also very gay for Chris Evans.
I
Very
would
gay.
fuck most characters in these movies.
Except for Mark Ruffalo.
No,
Snuggle Mark Ruffalo.
I would, yeah.
Mm.
Bring in
We're
Tumblr back.
all very heterosexual, just so you know.
Loki invades the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility where the MacGuffin is being held, and
Is that what it's called?
no, it's called the Tesseract, but MacGuffin is the technical term for like the device that everybody's chasing after.
I see. Okay.
And he not only slaughters most of the people there, but also mind controls a few people.
One of the main characters.
Played
by Jeremy Renner.
Played by Jeremy Renner, who is Hawkeye. And after that, Nick Fury activates the Avengers Initiative, which has been built up in mostly the Iron Man movies, I believe. And it's up to a team of superhumans comprised of Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye to retrieve the Tesseract and stop Loki from leading an alien invasion of Earth and subjugating all life on Earth. It's typical evil genius stuff.
Like I'm assuming most people who are kind of listening to this have seen the Avengers movies.
Spoilers, by the way, obviously.
Oh, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of spoilers.
Okay, let's put it this way: if you haven't seen the Avengers movies, it's been 7 years. Okay, at least the first one. It's been 7 years. You've had time.
And also, you're lying because this movie made like $1 billion dollars.
It made us. It made $1 million. Wow,
$1 million. You know, Dr. Evil style. $1 million.
It made one solitary penny. But no, it made $1.5 billion.
Breaking news! I guess the first Avengers tanked at the box office.
Who knows why they made a sequel? But
who knows why they made 3 sequels?
Yeah.
Anyway, that is the plot of the Avengers, and I would not say the plot is groundbreaking.
No.
But it is, in fact, American shonen. It is people in colorful costumes punching the shit out of each other. Yeah. And I love it. It's awesome.
You know what? Let's just get the script out of the way.
The script? Okay.
Yeah, because I think the script is the highlight of the movie.
Well, yeah.
Visually, the movie is pretty flat, especially in the cinematography, but there's like great shots here and there. Mm-hmm. Like there's that one where Black Widow is looking into the prison cell that Loki's in, and we see Black Widow outside, but we can see Loki's reflection right beside her. That's a really good shot. There's also a lot of great shots when they're in that black tie affair, that party.
Oh,
like Loki's at that party or
whatever.
Yeah,
the art museum. Or
their auction or whatever, I think, isn't it? Wasn't it something like that?
Yeah.
Well, there's also that one of my favorite parts of the entire scene, I guess, from that movie is when they're fighting in New York, and it just pans to all the different areas where they're fighting, and it's just one smooth movement of clearly CGI, a lot of it.
Oh, well, yeah.
But
ain't no practical effects to be found.
Yeah,
it's very, very fluid, and
it's very, very smooth, and highlights each specific character's techniques of their fighting as well, like Hawkeye and his bows, or Captain America using the shield, and then also them combining, like Thor when Iron Man when he shoots at Captain America's shield and it reflects off and kills 10 people. 10 Chitauri.
Very Mirror Shield Legend of Zelda.
Very Mirror Shield Legend of Zelda. Fantastic.
Chris, talk about the script.
Okay. So, as we kind of started saying earlier, Joss Whedon's strongest suit has always been his writing, because he's, honest to God, outstanding at writing movie dialogue, and he's really, really good at developing characters. Like, I don't know if you guys kind of noticed this, but you don't really have to watch the other movies leading up to the Avengers. You could probably just watch this on its own, because he already kind of establishes these characters within the first 20 minutes, and you know exactly who these people are, what they've gone through, and what their arcs are going to be throughout this movie.
Well, yeah, and you're right too. Especially when it comes to you don't really need to know the personal stories. Hulk is a completely different actor than the canon movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because
Captain America just came out of 70 years of sleep.
Yeah.
Iron Man has
Iron Man's Iron Man.
Iron Man. Everyone knows Iron Man.
Yeah.
and the Black Widow and
Black
Hawkeye.
Widow was barely in Iron Man 2. Hawkeye was in a post-credit scene, I think.
Wasn't he in
He was
Thor?
like in a cameo.
Wasn't he in Thor?
Yeah, I think he was in a post-credit scene in Thor.
They were literally like, Agent Barton at the ready, and he like draws his bow, and then they're like, stand down, and then he puts his bow away. That's it. So like Black Widow and Hawkeye, you're not going in with a lot of backstory anyway. You learn it basically in the movie.
You actually learn a lot more of Black Widow's and not really Hawkeye's backstory, but more of his future. But you learn a lot of Black Widow's backstory in the second Avengers movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
Yeah.
His strongest suit is writing. It always kind of has been. As far as the visual aspects of this movie are concerned, it mostly feels like you're kind of watching a TV show because it is very flat, but that's because Joss Whedon's history up until this point has been a lot of television.
Yeah.
Like, I think the only other movie he directed was Serenity.
I was surprised how little of the first half has action scenes.
Yeah.
Like, it's mostly character interactions, and I'm glad because I think they're all pretty much great.
Yeah, no.
Well, it turns it from just a straight up action movie into a well crafted story. I would say
Like small character studies, individual small characters.
yeah.
And I think there's also that group character study of, like, we have to come together as a group and stop this
guy from killing
this
innocents,
guy. Yeah, this guy from committing,
mass murder.
international genocide.
Yeah, it's very much a story of like 6 fucked up individuals uniting despite their flaws
And their
against a greater
differences.
threat.
Well, that too is that the thing is that they don't do that at first. Like, at least in my way, they come off very aggressive toward each other. Like Thor and Captain America are literally heads. Like that was my fist clanking together, by the way.
No,
They're at each other's throats within the first half hour, like 40
Yeah.
minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Or
and
he's
then there's
like-
also Iron Man and Cap.
That's
Same
what
thing.
what
Yeah.
I'm saying. They're very at each other's throats, and then Phil Coulson dies, he is killed, literally stabbed in the back by Loki. He represents innocence and the average Joe. Like he represents all the civilians that are just chilling down in New York.
I was gonna go somewhere different with that. I think Coulson's actually more like our surrogate to an extent because he is both that fanboy that gushes over our heroes, and he's because like there's that scene where he's like, "Oh, can you sign my trading cards?" Like that's a huge running gag throughout the first half of the movie.
Well, the main point I'm trying to get across is that he embodies the regular person, right?
Yeah.
And so when they see someone who's like that, who dies, but is still close to them, it hits them really hard. And that's the driving force to them coming together as a team. And
exactly, because he's also that catalyst, and he's the one that gives them that humanity check that they really need.
By the end, like they have every individual member has a reason for forming the Avengers, and I like that Tony's is mostly it's more because it's personal than anything else, because it's very true to the fact that Tony's an egomaniac. He which isn't to say he doesn't have empathy, which isn't to say that he isn't heroic in his own way, but he is very focused on how something will affect him because he doesn't play well with others. Which is stated multiple times.
And this is something I'd say which is completely different from how he acts in the second movie. Yes, there are those aspects of him being egomaniacal and all that kind of stuff, and he's still all about himself. But it's more about where he's not really thinking about just himself. He's thinking about he's seen the been through that portal with the nuke. He's seen the possible threats that are outside of Earth, and he wants to protect the rest of humanity from that because he doesn't want what happened to Coulson or whatever's happened during the first Avengers to happen in the second one.
But I don't
which
think
is why he develops Ultron.
I don't think that
the suit of armor around the world, as he describes it.
I don't think that necessarily is him becoming less egomaniacal. I think it's more him channeling his egomania into other outlets.
I think he's more scared than anything.
Sure, but I don't think any of that is negated by him being an egomaniac. But let's I want to focus on one character. I want to talk about Loki, the best character in this entire movie.
Well, because he's so fucking charismatic.
I love him so much. Like Reindeer Games himself.
That was a joke. I'm surprised. Whedon was like, "Oh yeah, people remember Reindeer Games in the year of our Lord 2012."
I thought it was a reference to the animal.
No, it was definitely
or Rudolph
a reference.
the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
It was a reference to, I think it was a Ben Affleck movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How does it apply to Loki?
I think it literally is just the horns. I think it's literally just the horns.
Then it probably applies more to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, but I think
the superior piece of art.
I think Whedon was like, I remember that movie. No, but I think Loki is such a charismatic villain, and when he's not menacing, he's so goddamn charming. And I think that just makes him all the more terrifying to me. And I know that people tend to bitch a lot about Marvel's villains a lot because a lot of them are very substandard.
Thor Dark World.
Do you mean that movie that nobody fucking remembers?
What is Malekith is his fucking name?
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, like Ronan is just there.
Ronan's a joke.
Yeah, Ronan's just bad. I honestly kind of believe that
I feel like he's a
Ronan is-
10-year-old in that movie.
I honestly believe that Ronan was just James Gunn going, what if we made the villain so bland as a joke?
But and Loki is not anything like that. He is engaging and has a decent motivation behind his actions.
But the thing is, he's got like a very clear weakness too, which is the fact that he is so fucking arrogant.
And he's such a brat.
He's a brat. He's a petulant child.
Yeah.
Like, I love the scene where like it's supposed like in any other movie it'd be kind of this like badass bad guy moment where he catches Hawkeye's arrow and then he just kind of looks disdainfully at the sky and then it blows up in his face and he gets knocked into a building. And there are a whole bunch of little moments like that where like he has this really like arrogant reaction to something because he states multiple times he clearly believes he's superior to anybody else. That's why he believes he should lead. But he'll have this little moment of hubris and will immediately embarrass himself publicly for it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the best moment, of course, being his confrontation with Hulk, where he starts monologuing.
I'm a god, you dull creature.
He starts monologuing at Hulk, who is the one character who couldn't be least interested in villainous monologues.
Literally could not give a flying fuck.
And I mean, if you haven't seen the scene, just look it up on YouTube. But like,
it is one of the biggest memes.
So great.
It's amazing.
So fucking satisfying.
I remembered how happy I was because I saw it, I think, opening weekend or if not opening day when I was like 15. And it was just, as soon as that happened.
Yeah.
And Hulk just grabs him and just smashes him on either side of the floor. Oh, and then it just ends with Hulk walking away. Puny God.
So Loki will get more development in later movies, but the thing about him specifically in this movie is that there's not necessarily too much to him, but, well, I mean, there is, but, like, not in terms of a deep reason for wanting to do evil. He's just kind of an asshole. But the thing about a character like that is, you know, it's done well when you can both, like, you eagerly anticipate every time he comes on screen, but also when he gets his just desserts, it's the best feeling.
Oh, it's so satisfying. Like because whenever he shows up, you're like, oh, thank God. It's like, I think Loki is going to go down in cinema history, at least blockbuster cinema history, as just one of those great superhero villains because Tom Hiddleston just brings such a rich charisma.
Well, think about this too, dude. Like Disney Plus, when it comes up with a streaming service, is gonna have its own Loki TV show, like live action with Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, and I think that's overdoing it.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit as well. But that's the strength that this character has. That it can spawn a completely separate its own TV show.
Yeah, and there's a huge fandom around Loki, though, so of course they're gonna milk that tip.
I don't know if it's just Loki. I think it's more Tom Hiddleston than Loki.
I mean, I think Tom Hiddleston like plays a part in that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Loki set a standard that other MCU movies like overcorrect away from and just make villains like very bland guys in suits, or try too much to emulate and make them like overly quippy megalomaniacs. And they would never really ever do it as well as they did Loki. No. I don't think.
I think some of the best villains have been the ones that departed away from that, like Ego in Guardians 2 or
Vulture
in Spider-Man Homecoming, because they did really good creative stuff with that.
Yeah.
And they were able to make those villains work in the context of like what those characters needed as an obstacle.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of other MCU movies, you're right. Like a lot of them are either very stock and boring, overcorrecting away from it, or they're very like, oh yeah, let's have a quippy villain just because we can. Well, if not quippy, then at least like that petulant child kind of thing, like Ronan.
Yeah, or every Iron Man villain, except maybe Obadiah. I don't remember Iron Man villains.
Well, it was Obadiah, which I didn't mind Obadiah because, you know, he's been friends with Tony's father for years. He wants to take the company out from under this young kid, right?
It's
a very business story, and I didn't mind that. The second villain of Iron Man 2 is just this.
Mickey Rourke.
Oh
is
look,
the-
I have laser whips. I can skip.
I'd love to see fucking Whiplash do jump roping. No, just Mickey Rourke just do like one of those stupid rhymes while like skipping rope.
Well, it's because they try to make the biggest villain in... this is a bit of a tangent. They're trying to make the biggest villain of Iron Man 2 actually be a Hammer, like Justin Hammer or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Hammer Industries. They're the actual
Sam
villain
Rockwell's
because
character.
they allowed... They
That's Sam
allowed...
Rockwell.
By the way, just Ivan would not be dead in Iron Man 2 if Hammer Industries didn't have intervened with his sentence.
You guys, let's never talk about Iron Man 2 again.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
At least not until the Iron Man.
I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm like begging one of you jumps in and saves me.
I mean,
Iron Man 2.
I mean, let's be fair here. Are we actually ever going to be able to do an Iron Man episode? Because it's going to be like 10 minutes long. I was just going, yeah, the first one's really good.
Second one's shit.
The second one kind of blows, and the third one's okay.
No.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Iron Man.
You know what? Yeah, there you go, everybody. There's
your Iron Man.
There's our Iron Man reviews on number 1 and 2. Number 3 we're not going to talk about because it has these stupidest villains.
Anyway, if you have any complaints about us never doing Iron Man again, please send your angry complaints to ranted.chris@yahoo.ca.
I think that's actually...
We're never cutting...
I think
we're not
that's
cutting
actually
any of this
my
out.
fucking Yahoo address.
Are you serious?
I think so,
I'm glad.
yeah.
We're keeping all of that in.
All of it. Basically, Loki, I don't know if he's necessarily the best one. I don't care.
Best
But
villain?
a best MCU villain. I don't care to find out right now. But I think he set a standard that. He's a great villain by any standard, not just this arbitrary MCU.
Well, no,
metric
you're
I
right.
brought
But
up,
even in terms of MC in setting a standard for MCU, it's really disappointing because Thor 2: The Dark World came out after this, which is, when you think about it, really bad because they have such a good character and villain set up in this, and then you get Malekith from that fuckery.
What? I don't even remember Thor the Dark World.
I'm sure I would be angrier if I remembered anything about Malekith.
So anyway, you were talking about a movie called Thor the Dark World that I honestly don't remember existing.
Please, let's just not. Oh, for fuck's sake!
I don't know what you're talking about. What's Thor the Dark World?
All right, for the viewers at home to put into context what's happened in front of us today. Chris has gone to the kitchen and got himself the collectible Thor the Dark World cup from Cineplex Odeon.
Oh shit, that's the French side. Hold on.
They don't fucking care, Chris. It's
Anyway,
not a video.
Bilingualism in Canada.
You
said you want to talk about the military aspect of it, right?
I did. I wanted to touch on it. Fun fact, because the world we live in is just shit, and most movies are basically just glorified advertising, the Pentagon will subsidize, or help subsidize anyway, production of films, provided that they represent American military interests or intelligence communities or the military in a positive light. And the MCU kind of has a mixed record with this. For example, Iron Man received funding because Tony Stark is the good fucking warmonger.
Arms dealer.
Yeah. Captain America: The First Avenger received it because it's hard. It's very unusual that you will find American soldiers being the bad guys in a World War II setting. However, movies like Winter Soldier did not, for obvious reasons, and The Avengers, actually, I was surprised going in, did not receive this funding. But after watching the movie, I get it, because it actually paints a pretty negative view of S.H.I.E.L.D., the generalized attitude towards stockpiling weapons.
Well, I can think of a couple examples where your point actually makes a lot of sense too. Is like, one is they use the weapons that Hydra was making back in World War II in Captain America days. They're trying to use the same technology, the Tesseract, and invent weapons. Yes, for good intentions, but there's a really good, like, the path to good intention is littered with potholes or something like that. There's like, it's a really good like analogy for it, but like basically yes, their intentions were good and like they want to protect the world and stuff. However,
it's the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Thank you. That's what it is. Thank you. That's one example. The second example is when you have Fury talking to that, air quotes, board of directors, which we never see again, by the way.
Yeah.
Because, well, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s crashed.
No, well, I mean, we see him in Winter Soldier, but
but they're but anyway, they see the board of these people, and they vote to launch a nuclear missile into downtown Manhattan, New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
Millions of people live there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just like don't even care. Like, yes, it is an alien threat. Yes, the stakes are very high. But if
the military had like you said, the military had funded this air quotes decision, it would look very bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I want to talk about that scene because it has my favorite Sam Jackson moment in all the MCU, where the powers that be are all on these screens and they're telling them, oh yeah, we're going to send this nuclear missile.
Yeah, we made a decision.
Yeah,
I agree you made a decision, but given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it.
Yes!
I'm like,
that is the best Sam Jackson moment in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. And
it's very Pulp Fiction, isn't it?
It's just very Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
Also, it kind of illustrates the fact that, remember when they question why S.H.I.E.L.D. has the Tesseract in the first place, the answer they are given is, it's for universal clean energy. Thing is, they'd never have any indication that energy is actually being produced by S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, they could easily do it if they wanted to, and that would solve a lot of the world's problems. But they are instead using it to develop weapons with which to wage war and exacerbate these problems. And you can take that commentary wherever you want to. But I think it's not exactly a surprise that the U.S. military would not be a fan of that.
No.
The U.S. military receives a lot of money that could be going to universal healthcare. I'm just going to throw that out there. Do with that information what you will. Going back to the point about the culture industry, and I'm not going to go super into Marxist critical theory on you guys, but the Avengers... it wasn't the first movie in the series to do this, but it kind of perpetuates the idea of using this movie, which in itself is selling a certain product and looking to make a profit off of selling those products, is not only selling these products, but selling movies that will sell their own products. And it's this very, I think, like, as far as that concept goes, I'm not going to say it's good for society, but in the context of this movie, it is executed much better than pretty much any movie that came after it. In the sense that it's not... Because I think the weakest part of most MCU movies after that are the parts that tie into other movies.
Oh, by far.
Oh, the little Easter eggs here and there and stuff like that. Right?
Exactly.
Like,
whereas this movie stands really well on its own. Like, you don't really need to know anything about the other movies going in, because you get... Well, Thor kind of comes out of nowhere. But other than that...
Well, and that's the thing, like, even for the second Avengers, it doesn't really need it either.
No, not really.
Yes, for the second Avengers, you need to have watched the first one, because you need to know where the scepter comes from. But that's really it.
Yeah.
So, Stefan, Brandon, thumbs up, thumbs down?
I give this one a hearty thumbs up.
Yes, very much the same.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up. This is a very ambitious project, especially for its time. Like, this came out at the right time when we were all like, holy shit, there's like 6 characters in this movie that they have to deal with. How are they going to do it in 2.5 hours? And now we're like, holy fuck, they have 40 characters they have to deal with in 3. But yeah, so I think, honestly, for its time, it was super ambitious and groundbreaking in that sense.
I remember being so excited to see this movie.
Oh, so was I.
Like,
Everyone was
so
absolutely
pumped. So, like, holy shit, it's the culmination of all these 4 years of movies coming together. And now, more than 10 years, I still get that excitement.
Yeah.
Like, when we go see Endgame later this week.
Yeah.
I'm so pumped.
Yeah.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
No, and...
One thing, actually, that I guess we didn't...
God.
The end credit scene.
Well...
And it's not a lot. It's just I thought I'd mention it because it introduces Thanos for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It introduces a bigger plot. Even though we just saw this huge culmination of people and storylines and plot lines all come together into this one massive fight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It furthers it even more with another end cutscene of a galaxy thing, and then Guardians comes out later that year.
Guardians came out in 2014.
Or 2 years later.
Yeah, it came out a couple years later.
It came out, it was good.
No, but basically what I'm saying is, for its time, this is super groundbreaking. This is something that we hadn't really seen before. And watching it now, 7 years later, you think, yeah, some of this stuff hasn't necessarily aged that well.
And
like visuals and like some of the cinematography is kind of rough. But again,
and it is corny, but it's an endearing corniness.
Yeah, no, like it's the corniness I want out of a superhero movie.
It made me really want to try shawarma.
Oh yeah, right. That end credits. No, that's the one we need to talk about.
That's the one we need to talk
about. Fuck Thanos. No, but it's that endearing corniness that makes the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the first two, really, really strong. it's that endearing corniness that made Shazam this year really, really good.
Very, very good. Yes.
And
Haven't seen it.
that's why I love this movie so much, is because it feels like the kind of superhero movie I genuinely love, which is just dumb fun. And I love dumb shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this movie's really, really good for it. So yeah.
Let's be real, guys. These movies are fucking stupid, but I love them so much.
No, they're so much fun. They're not like Crank levels of stupid.
No.
They're fucking awesome.
Well, it's like, yes, they're a little bit less serious than, say, your Shawshank Redemptions, your Green Miles. They're really good movies.
Yeah,
that are
but I mean,
hugely plot
but I'm not expecting the Avengers to win Best.
Well, exactly.
I mean,
you also can't expect to have 6 different movie plot lines in the one movie be completely coherent every single time.
I mean, the thing
Exactly.
I think that elevates these movies beyond like your standard cape shit affair is that the fact that these characters are so endearing.
Oh yeah, no, these characters are all
kind of in the same sense that we talked about Hellboy last week.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think this is a much larger scale than Hellboy, but it's kind of the same principle. It could be a schlocky B movie, and if it would have been that.
Jazz?
I am owned. I have been owned. I am now announcing my resignation from sequel Decay. I have been
too ever recover from this?
I'm so sorry. Oh.
Now, anyway, we spent the last...
Stefan is now hanging his head in shame as I wrecked him. I'm so sorry.
We spent the last hour talking about Avengers. Now we're going to talk about the actual movie we're doing this week.
I'm so glad we got that on fucking recording. Oh my god. Look how upset he is.
Stefan, I'm on the 9th floor. It's okay. You can kill yourself.
Oh, did we include this? I want to include this bad.
I think I might include a little bit.
Or we save it for the real.
No, I could do what I did with the poor Liz.
Oh my god! I'm so sorry.
No, I
can.
can.
That was so good.
Here, let me get you a shot of tequila.
Oh,
let's save it till after.
Fucking, we got him.
We
got him, boys. We got him.
I'm not owned. I scream as I recede into a corn cob.
I had no idea what we were talking about anymore. I lost it. Oh, what were you talking about?
I was talking about how I think I pretty much got it, but I was talking about how even though this is a schlocky B movie, it elevates itself above that by the fact that it has so much heart. It has endearing characters. It has it's a kind of standard plot that isn't that interesting, but you want to see these characters come out on top just on the fact of who they are.
We all recommend the Avengers.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. If you're not into superhero movies, I don't see how you like this. But like, if you like them, especially if you have kids who like them, like you can't do much better than the Avengers.
No, if you like a superhero movie that reminds you of the old serials with that same campy goofiness and that same like bucko charm.
The inevitable sequel to Avengers was released in 2015. Avengers: Age of Ultron was directed and written by Joss Whedon once again, and features the same Avengers we all know and tolerate from the first one, as well as some new characters. Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver, and Elizabeth Olsen, the best Olsen sister, as Scarlet Witch.
We're gonna get a lot of hate for that.
I can't wait.
No,
now we gotta talk about the Mary Kate and Ashley movies for another episode of Sequel Decay. I cannot wait to talk about New York Minute.
As well as
on the way to Grandma's house.
As well as
no, it's to Grandma's house we go.
As well,
actually would be down to watch those movies as like a.
Why the fuck would you be down for that? They're dreadful. Like the only good thing about fucking New York Minute is Eugene Levy.
Everybody shut the fuck up so I can go to Paul Bettany. Paul Bettany as the Vision, and James Spader as the titular villain, Ultron.
I thought the villain's name was Age of Ultron. If he's the titular character, then it's
Chris, I will fucking destroy you.
Let's talk about the name of this movie for a second. Age of Ultron. It's a very, very short age.
Yeah.
It's like, what, 3 days?
No, it's actually 142 minutes.
It's better to burn out than to fade away, dude. Do either of you remember the very first trailer for this?
Yeah.
Where
Honestly, not really.
It's where James Spader as Ultron is singing "I've Got No Strings" from Pinocchio.
Well, I know that, and I know that specifically because Disney acquiring Marvel was like all up in arms and all over social media when this movie was coming out. Like, yes, it had already started happening, and but at the first Avengers movie that Disney started acquiring Marvel stuff. But I guess the public knew more about it when this movie was coming out. And so, and then one of the huge thing is, the reason everyone knew that is because of that song, No Strings on Me, which is from Pinocchio. Yeah. That Disney has the rights to, so they could only use that when Disney had eventually bought them out. Right.
And I remember seeing that, and I thought, oh man, this looks really dark. And I still love the whole, like, kid song as in a darker version aesthetic. That shit gets me every time. Joker trailer.
Yeah.
That's not a kid song. It's just Smile by Nat King Cole.
Whatever. Well, I mean, it's a song that you don't. Okay, maybe it's not a kid song.
It's a happy song.
Yeah, but a happy song you wouldn't associate with something bleak. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, this looks really dark, man. They're gonna kill somebody off. They're gonna kill definitely Hawkeye off, and it's gonna
heavily implied.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna be so dark and cool. It's gonna be a total 180 from the Avengers, and they definitely did not do that.
No,
and
I remember that being kind of disappointing. But I also remembered reading, and I'm gonna have to look this up in case I'm wrong, and then I cut this out of the podcast. But I remembered reading that Joss Whedon had said that this was the Godfather Part 2 of the Avengers saga for him.
Yeah.
And I remembered even hearing his original cut was like just over 3 hours.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was like 190 minutes or something like that.
Jesus Christ,
for this movie.
For Age of Ultron, yeah.
Holy shit. And it's what, 2.5?
It's just under 2.5. So he probably...
They cut like a third of the movie.
So if his...
Which would explain a lot.
So if his claims are true, that his original cut was 190 minutes, which, Jesus Christ, wouldn't have justified it, then he would have cut out about 50 minutes. But then again, there's been tons of films where, once you get the first cut ready, it's like fucking 4 hours long, and then they cut it down into something, sizable and reasonable to sit through.
Yeah.
The movie opens in a small fictional country invented for this movie known as Sokovia, in which the Avengers are hunting down a Hydra facility in order to recover the MacGuffin from the first movie, which is Loki's spear thing. His scepter. Anyway, while they are hunting down this facility, they come under the influence of Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch, who can... Well, we don't really know what she does, actually. They never explain it.
I remember everyone being really upset at her character.
I don't think she's awful.
No, she's great.
No, I think the character's really interesting. They don't do a lot with her. I think
she's way more interesting in the comics, and they don't really start developing her character in the movies until Civil War.
I remember when I first started hearing
barely do.
When I first started hearing these complaints about her too, it was like, oh, her costume isn't as thing as the comics. I'm like, okay, that's all right. And I looked up what the costume was for Scarlet Witch in the comics. I was like,
it's ridiculous.
It's dumb as shit.
It's basically a one-piece bathing suit without the middle.
It's a 60s comic.
It's
uniform.
Hella raunchy.
It's a product of its time. But no, I think the only issue I have with Scarlet Witch is, and I think this is a Whedon-directed issue and not so much an Elizabeth Olsen issue, because later on in the movies she completely drops her accent, but the really bad Russian accent she's speaking into it the entire movie is so bad. And I think it is a Whedon issue. I don't think it's a Elizabeth Olsen
issue. However, I would argue that her character wouldn't make sense without it, at least in the first movie, because she's from Russia. She's signed up.
But Elizabeth Olsen is an American actress.
She is an American actress.
There's no reason she would know one of those accents, so it would be reasonable to pursue an actress from Eastern Europe instead.
Who would you have put in place of...
Well, I don't know enough Eastern European actresses, but...
Exactly. If you gave me a little more time to think about it, I'd probably give you a reasonable answer.
The Scarlet Witch and her brother Quicksilver have a vendetta against the Avengers.
Tony Stark specifically.
And their influence on the Avengers leads to Tony Stark in a fit of, I want to say paranoia, but we can elaborate on that later, creating an artificial intelligence known as Ultron, who, of course, because this is how every artificial intelligence story goes on a rampage and decides that killing the world is the best course of option.
To save it.
Killing the world to save it.
Basically, humans are their own destruction and they're all doomed if they live, so why don't kill them all to save save them.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't tell the difference between destruction and saving. I think is the line that's used.
Exactly. And that is the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Again, like the first movie, fairly boilerplate. It's not doing anything new. It does, however, end up a lot messier.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of studio interference here.
Oh, absolutely.
Because on one hand, it does feel like Whedon is genuinely trying to raise the stakes with Ultron,
Uh-huh.
and I genuinely think he did want to go in a much darker direction than Marvel did, and it just kind of feels like this weird tonal mix of like the quippy shit we liked about the first Avengers, but also Whedon's attempts to get away from that and do something different.
Yeah.
And this was coming in a time when Ant-Man was coming out, and we were all still really pissed off that Edgar Wright wasn't directing it, because he basically got pushed off of that because they didn't like the direction he was going with it. So this was around the time when people were starting to get, I think at least, people were starting to get a little bitchy about like studio interference with Marvel and how things are becoming very...
Well, it's why the Phase 2 movies are so bad.
I don't think all of them are that bad.
I mean,
Like,
Guardians is a Phase 2 movie.
Let me rephrase.
Most of the Phase 2.
would you like to rephrase?
Iron Man 3 wasn't that great. It was okay, but it wasn't that great. Thor: The Dark World is crap.
Hold on.
Guardians is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't even think of the other one. Like, I guess the first Ant-Man would be Phase 2.
Which is fun.
Which is good.
Oh,
But,
Captain
like,
America: The Winter Soldier.
Which is awesome.
So, okay, so like half of like basically the ones that aren't Captain America and Ant-Man
And Guardians.
And Guardians.
Like, I'm
It's really hard for me to think of Guardians as an MCU movie, but we are going to do a Guardians episode eventually.
yes.
Yeah.
Let's not touch Guardians right now. We'll leave it. You will get an episode eventually.
For Guardians. There will be no Iron Man episode, though.
No,
We're good.
there will be no
Iron Man
Mans.
is dead to us. A lot of the tonal dissonance of this movie is kind of manifested in Ultron, and you can kind of see where the movie kind of wanted to go with him, because he's kind of... They do something different from the comic, where he's just kind of this amoral killing machine. Whereas in this, he is kind of a newborn who's still figuring out morality. So when he's tasked with protecting the world from those who would harm it and being basically a peacekeeping force, he doesn't have he has trouble understanding the concept because the people who have given him this task, as in the Avengers, are kind of acting as this...
Well, they're also flawed.
Are flawed people, especially Tony Stark, who kind of act as this like imperialist force. Or there's a part in the first kind of sequence where they spray paint in Sokovia. They spray paint Iron Man against like dollar signs, so they're not clearly very well received in parts of the world outside of the United States. And you have this very dark conception of Ultron, but you also have what I think was their attempt to make Ultron more like Loki, in the sense that he's very quippy. He's quick with the jokes.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, when he tries to be quippy, he sounds like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, he comes across very petulant.
There's especially this one scene where someone relates him to Tony Stark.
Yeah,
And he just takes it like the biggest offense in the entire world. Like, he's
offended beyond belief. And he lashes out and hits him and the way his body actions move, and what he yells specifically. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's just, I am not Tony Stark. Like, it's very like, I hate my dad kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very daddy-ish.
And it doesn't really tie into the rest of the movie either.
No, and it really doesn't. It loses something there.
There's a lot, and the two versions of him don't really clash, and as a result, like, his like motive isn't very defined. Like, it's unclear to go tell when he progresses from Avengers need to be exterminated to humanity needs to be exterminated. Honestly, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of the comics, but I think I would have preferred a more comics faithful adaptation, just because the comics faithful adaptation is that he might be like darkly funny, either intentionally or unintentionally.
But he's super sadistic.
He's super sadistic, and he's inhuman. He clearly acts in a way that is distinctly
no emotion.
Not even necessarily. Well, sometimes that, yeah, but not even necessarily that. More in the fact that he is so clearly detached from our conception of humanity. Whereas this is way too human. Like, I think even his movements are too human. They try to make his face more human. They give him teeth. Again, his comics design, which kind of looks more like his minions in this, is very kind of grotesque, almost goblin-like.
What's the thing? Like, it's like when you're talking about like his teeth, they give him teeth and stuff. I noticed something too is that his lips, they give him lips that move, and he's a piece of metal. Which metal does not move like that unless there's like micro machines inside of every single muscle is created a certain way, or he's supposed to be this all intelligent, all powerful AI, right? So maybe he knows of something that has created, is able to do that. Like maybe the vibranium is able to do that, but like as far as I know in canon knowledge, I don't think that's the thing.
Right.
Now,
and that's maybe I'm picking it apart a little bit like, to a T, but
yeah.
Now, going back to what you were saying about the comics and how you'd prefer something like that, I mean, even because they do kind of hint at Ultron having an identity crisis initially.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most interesting stuff about him in the film.
Very briefly.
Very briefly, yeah, like pretty much in his first scene, and that's it. And I think if they really leaned on the identity crisis stuff a lot more, I think it would have made for a more compelling character.
I think there are some scenes especially when Ultron is being introduced, that are like kind of perfect for like this darker conception of Ultron.
Oh yeah,
especially when he like first confronts them after the party scene. But
that's at the boat scene, right? Is that the one where they're in Wakanda?
No, it's before that.
Okay,
It's when he first turns up and he's like this like beaten up piece of armor.
Yeah,
and he starts talking about strings,
which I think honestly using that song to
very smart.
It was very, very good, and I think they didn't even need to go into the daddy issues thing as much. Yeah, if they just left it with the references to the Pinocchio song.
Yeah, well, like you were saying with that first scene too, where he comes out and there's literally things dangling off, so it looks like he has strings and he's holding his arms up like he has someone controlling him, and it's just like, damn.
I think even Ultron could be like improved exponentially if he didn't move like a human. Like if he was like much more like robotic. Not even animalistic, but like aggressive and radiated hostility. Whereas I'm not getting that impression.
He's very human.
He's very human, and in the last act, he just becomes a punching bag.
Well, I feel like the reason he's part human is because, and I don't know if it's just Marvel or just people like villains in general, they tend to want to humanize the villain. A little bit to like say, oh, feel bad for the villain but still hate him, you know, like those hate-love relationships.
And sometimes they do it really effectively. Loki, and then sometimes they don't. Ultron.
Yeah.
Malekith. Yes.
Well, I don't remember them giving Malekith any humanity.
They didn't. Yeah, like it's the same thing with like fucking Ronan. It's either they have stock villain of the week that's boring as shit, or they're gonna have like at best Loki, at I guess worst for lack of a better word.
Exactly. Like, yeah, so he has these air quotes daddy issue problems that Ultron has.
I think a strength from the first movie that carries over into this one is the character interactions.
Yes. But again, this is Joss Whedon's writing. This is his quippy dialogue. Again, his strongest suit by far is that he's an incredible writer, and he's so good at character interactions. He's so good at dynamics. He's so good at arcs.
And you can see that in the first scene you see with the whole team when they're fighting in that forest, right?
Oh,
it seems like you see like it's been a couple years since the first Avengers movie.
Yeah,
3 years, and so you get this feeling like, okay, they've been working together for these 3 years, chasing down the Scepter leads. They've been developing as a unit. They've been interacting and being around each other. That's why they have that party scene, right? And especially when Black Widow goes and does that sun's getting real low thing with Hulk. Like, yes, it's corny. It's so corny, but it sets up like, okay, they have a failsafe to calm down the Hulk, which is really good. It's the only thing,
and it sets
up
up
that we know of that has really effectively and consistently calmed down the Hulk.
And it sets up that Natasha and Bruce are
that romantically,
each other.
Air quotes, romantically involved. Yes. Yeah. Which is nice.
Yeah.
And like Bruce Banner and Natasha. It also takes away the Hawkeye and Black Widow. Because that's implied in the first movie.
It is implied
heavily,
in the first one.
But then you find out in this movie that's more of just a friendship.
Yeah.
Especially when it cuts to Barton's house.
with his wife. With
And
it,
his wife
I'd
and
assume
two
his
kids.
wife and his 2 kids,
Mhm.
and
Well,
third one on the
actually,
way.
They actually set that up earlier on in Age of Ultron.
Oh yeah,
Right before the party scene. Oh, I don't have a girlfriend. Oh, I can't help you with that. Basically setting up like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend. I'm actually married.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because when he's on that phone,
It's
he's
a-
like, "What are you
it's a
doing?" He's like,
verbal
"Girlfriend."
assault.
I'm like,
yeah, like they do
Okay.
set up that he does have a personal life
Something.
outside of Shield.
He just wants to keep it away from Shield.
which
Exactly.
also sets up, and this is not with this movie, but in Civil War when they have to take that deal with the Sokovia Accords, where they're not fighting.
Yeah.
Right. Him and Scott do that.
This movie is way more action heavy than the first one, I thought. It does have like 2 big character scenes, which I think are the best parts of this movie, mainly because they don't really center as much around Ultron. I feel.
Sorry, go ahead.
And one is the party scene at the beginning, where you just get these like quick little vignettes of them interacting with each other, and Stan Lee gets a cameo, and it's a really like maybe my favorite scene in the movie. And then
Excelsior.
yeah,
Us
Love
after
it.
we finish this tequila.
Love Stanley.
and then you have them at the safe house, and they both have kind of like a really kind of gross moment where in the first one Iron Man makes a prima nocta joke, which is stupid, and then in the second one Joss Whedon does this really fucking weird thing where Black Widow is presented as being a monster for being unable to have kids,
Yeah.
which is a pretty big collective yikes from us, I think.
Yeah, no, there was literally the point
Yeah, it paints the image of if women can't have kids, they're monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
it
I got,
really
and I'm like,
does.
that is dark
No, that's just
and-
really kind of
and wrong
sexist.
and wrong,
Yeah.
sexist.
Yeah.
But
It's
this is also Joss. I write women as humans. Whedon.
True.
and then gaslight them in
And
real
then
life.
gaslight them. Yeah. Fuck Joss Whedon. Other than that, I think the safe house bit, which I think is about 10 or 15 minutes, is without a doubt my favorite part of the movie. Because it's the most sobering part of the movie.
Mhm.
It's the it gets really tense at points, especially
It sets up Civil War.
I was in the middle.
Well, sorry.
especially with Captain America and Iron Man having that moment when they're outside cutting wood,
Mm-hmm.
because that sets up Civil War really well.
Yes, it does. Extreme. There's a lot of little moments like that that set up Civil War. And they're very. You don't notice them the first time you watch it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you watch Civil War and you come back, you're like, oh shit, okay. Like it's the little things that between, especially Captain and Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the setup for Civil War in this is super subtle. The setup for Ragnarok, on the other hand, is not.
No.
Yeah, you get a lot. Those scenes that flash are very quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like almost to the point where I didn't even catch the Asgard blowing up, like you mentioned. And like I saw the Infinity Stones when they all come through, and then it shows them in that sort of kind of.
yeah.
It shows them like the background behind the stones is this yellow kind of ethereal space thing,
Yeah,
but it looks like the Infinity Gauntlet fist, and so it kind of like there's a lot of those little things that lead up to like Thanos is coming.
yeah, but I think the biggest issue is that not only is that entire arc with Thor incredibly forced in and clearly studio mandated,
Yeah,
but it's also really way too fucking vague. Like, for nerds, they're probably like, oh yeah, Ragnarok's coming and the Infinity War movie's coming and stuff like that. But the thing is that like any dumbass general public member will go in and they're not going to know what the fuck any of that was.
yeah.
Like the thing that really gives it context at those scenes is the end credit scene with Thanos with the gauntlet. It's like, okay, so he's coming, but that even again that only sets up Endgame.
Well,
If you have no idea about Thor Ragnarok, you're not going to catch those little things, right?
Yeah.
No, but I think honestly, if they cut out the whole thing with Thor, and they just had Hulk flying away and Thanos getting the gauntlet as that mid-credit scene, like honestly, I think that's more than enough setup you need.
Yeah.
The rest of that could have been cut out.
Yeah,
And I don't know why they even bothered including it.
Going back to something that Stefan, you said that it seems like there's a lot of more action in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I agree with you there, but I also feel like it's a little bit of a hindrance to the movie overall, because even you, Chris, were saying like, oh, this isn't the climax of the movie yet.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're like only an hour and a half in, and there's been constant,
Not even an hour and a half.
basically constant action since 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first Avengers, you get an hour of people, the character development stuff, and then half an hour of action. This, it's more like an hour and a half of action and an hour of character building in between.
Yeah,
no, it's not like Man of Steel levels where like
No,
the last
no.
70 minutes of the movie is a giant action scene.
Oh my god.
I'm not lying, kids.
Also, just a reference, we're trying to stay very far from those movies.
What, the DC movies?
As opposed to like maybe Shazam, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the DC
I wouldn't
universe.
mind doing an episode on the Wonder Woman movies, assuming 1984 is good. I'm
I guess older DC movies, I should say, like the Wonder Woman, because they're gonna come out with the second Wonder Woman, and the Shazam. Those are good,
Yeah.
but those are the only two ones I like from DC.
I haven't seen Aquaman yet, but I did
Okay.
buy it. It's
Aquaman was okay.
I heard it's so fucking goofy,
It is really goofy.
and I don't know if it's gonna be like Avengers or Shazam goofy, or if it's gonna be like Furious 7 goofy.
It's not that goofy.
Ah, fuck! I really want it to be that goofy.
Oh god, that's one I. Well, there's a lot of stuff I want to say about those Fast and Furious movies, but I'll leave that for.
We're doing an episode for sure on that.
It's one of my favorite franchises. Back to Jeremy Renner's character.
Jeremy
Renner's character, and like his whole thing. He is one of the most important characters in this movie.
Oh my god,
He is the moral compass. He is the one that everyone here relates to.
Yeah.
He even says in the movie, we're fighting flying robots, and I'm shooting a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense. I'm like, yeah, none of this makes any fucking sense.
Yeah.
But what's happening, so either go with it or fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, it's great.
And anyone who knows Joss Whedon knows that if Whedon focuses on a specific character for an extended period of time and gives them a lot of backstory and development or an arc of some kind, he's probably going to kill them off.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of Whedon's style. So
Yeah,
we all kind of thought, oh shit, Hawkeye's gone.
think about the stuff leading up to the end of the movie. We start off with, okay, there's another girlfriend, and you find out, oh, he has a wife and kids. Oh, he's this. Oh, then he has this huge motivational, inspiring talk with Scarlet Witch.
And then he goes to rescue that kid.
And he goes to rescue that. And right before he goes to rescue that kid, he get this like, oh shit, okay, I guess I gotta go save this guy. Like, he's obviously gonna do it, but like
he knows what the risk
the,
is.
the way it looks is like, oh fuck, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
Especially because we won in the movie, like just like everything leading up to that. Okay, well, Hawkeye's the expendable one.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it plays on that thing of like, because when the first Avengers came out, everyone's like, oh, Hawkeye's just, you don't need him.
Yeah.
He doesn't really do a lot. And then this one, they play on that thinking, where like he's gonna die, and then it switches at the very last fucking second to where
And they kill off the most useless character in the movie,
Quicksilver, who has, I think, 5 lines in the entire film.
Yeah, it doesn't talk a lot now that I think about it.
No, he's barely in the movie.
Yeah, and most of it is him just running around. Oh, you didn't see that coming?
Yeah, most of it is just him going vroom vroom. I am Speed Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, honestly.
I am Speed. Ka-choo!
Ka-choo.
Ka-choo.
No, like, yeah, it changes at that last second to where Quicksilver dies. And yes, he is unimportant. They could have done a lot more with him. But I think the point of his death isn't necessarily so that we focus on him, it's so that we focus on Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Because that death affects her so hard to her core.
But the problem is that it doesn't affect us.
No. But it affects her, which in turn affects Vision, which then affects us. I guess it was so they could have that scene of her pulling Ultron's heart, air quotes, out of his chest.
Yeah, like it does set up some kind of a motivation for her to finally knock the shit out of Thanos. Or not Thanos, fuck Ultron.
Oh, you know what it does? It sets up that she wants to get revenge on Ultron. She goes and kills him. And while she is going to kill him, that rogue robot goes and turns the crank.
Yeah.
And which drops the city. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, what it was for. Which could have been done better, but...
But I think... No, but the issue there is, again, because we're not engaged with Quicksilver. We weren't engaged with Scarlet Witch that much. And... So when it does affect them, it doesn't necessarily affect us as much. And I think, again, that is an issue with the writing. And again, an issue with focus, because the movie is very messy.
Well, you did say that the original cut was, over 3 hours?
I think, again...
And so, like, when you have a cut that's like that, you're going to have to cut a lot out. And I feel like they probably cut out a lot of the backstory.
Again, I feel like it was a studio interference thing where, like, I think a lot of... Because I think, honestly, this would work as a 2.5-hour movie if Whedon wanted to do what he wanted with it.
Mm.
And they cut out... Like, if they cut out the Thor shit and did a lot more with Scarlet Witch with that time, the movie would actually be a lot stronger, assuming that Whedon wrote Scarlet Witch well.
Well, like, they also could have cut out that entire thing with Black Widow, I guess.
Yeah, they could have
like,
actually...
what was the point of that?
It doesn't amount to anything.
The ballet thing?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like it's to show her backstory of how she became how she became a spy, right? Like that's the whole point of her, and to show that she has been through trauma too, and that she can relate to Bruce. That's really what it is. And I feel like they didn't really need that.
No, honestly, I think if that scene between Natasha and Bruce was a lot better than I'm sterilized, so I'm a monster.
Yeah,
I think those scenes would actually have more purpose.
Yeah, and I think that's a little on the nose.
Because I think the problem is that because that scene between Natasha and Bruce is so bad, it just removes the purpose of those earlier sequences with the ballet and stuff.
Well, yeah.
So I think if that scene was better.
Well, you know, I found something really funny too is because in the original Hulk movie, the canon one, I should say, with Edward Norton, he is completely and hopelessly head over heels in love for Betty.
Oh yeah, and she hasn't been in any
and she hasn't been in any of the MCU movies besides the Incredible Hulk
for legal issues.
And also probably the actress doesn't want to come back.
Also that.
But
what
maybe
legal issues?
Well, the reason Marvel hasn't done another Hulk movie is because the rights technically
are they still with Universal?
They've stayed with Universal.
Oh,
so
shit.
They can't do a Hulk movie without Universal. And so Hulk can only appear in stuff like the Avengers.
Oh fuck, that's why. That's really stupid.
Yeah.
And that makes me really sad.
That is really...
Because I would like to see a standalone Hulk movie with Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, so would I.
That would be incredible.
Well, because it would tie up the whole Betty situation.
Mm-hmm.
It would further go into the plot line of Natasha and him having a romantic involvement. Mm-hmm. And I feel like everyone wants to see that. We can't wait 4 years between each of these movies to watch that unfold.
Yeah, no, and honestly, like the best thing about these Avengers movies is seeing Mark Ruffalo again because he's so good in the role.
He's incredible.
But,
I'm always angry.
I think the movie sets up some like interesting themes, like especially the one that I mentioned earlier about the concept of Iron Man historically and the Avengers at this point as being sort of agents of imperialism, and this is more built upon in Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about the movie is like it kind of drops it in the third act.
Yeah, no, it just stops in the third act and doesn't give a shit. And it just turns into the third act of the first one.
This massive blowjob to the military-industrial complex in the form of the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier appears, and Pietro's all like, this is S.H.I.E.L.D., and Cap's like, this is what S.H.I.E.L.D. should have been. And they're like, this is not so bad. This is definitely what intelligence organizations do, right? And then they kind of drop it, and that's pretty unsatisfying. There's some stuff it delivers on. Like, I think except for that one stupid scene, it mostly delivers on Bruce and Natasha's thing. It's kind of suitably tragic, because Hulk is never going to have a happy ending. Vision kind of comes out of nowhere in the third act, and he's tough to tie in, I think. Just because he comes out of nowhere.
Honestly, I think the best way that they integrated him into he's now an Avenger is he immediately is able to hold Thor's hammer.
Yeah,
which is like
that's really
he is worthy to rule Asgard. You're fine.
Yeah,
like you'll be fine. And I'm like, that's a good way to everyone trust me. Everyone's like, oh,
but I still don't really understand the circumstances around his creation. I don't really. Vision has a bunch of cool moments, but he doesn't tie in that well as a character in this movie. Most of his development will come in Civil War.
Well, since and this is my opinion on Vision, is that he's there for a couple reasons. One, he's there to, as he says, he's on the side of life. And he's like, Ultron is against it, so that's why he goes against Ultron. Mm-hmm. But if one of the Avengers were to turn and go against life on Earth, he would agree against them as well. So it's very good. It's a good concept there. Also, it's the introduction of the first Infinity Stone. I guess now the second one, because I
think they introduced it in Guardians.
The Mind Stone, no,
not the Mind Stone, but they definitely started introducing the Infinity Stone.
Yes, no, well, of course they do that. Yeah. But Guardians 1 came out after this.
The culture industry says hi.
A year after this, right?
The year
prior. Yeah. Well, so it's okay. I guess it goes off of Guardians' success of introducing the Infinity Stones. That's where the Mind Stone is. Mm-hmm. That's where everyone knows it is. That's where it's going to be. Maybe they can use it to their advantage against Thanos eventually, because that's what's going to happen eventually. Yeah. And it leads up to the points in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about at that point. But everything's trying to. It's the last one that Thanos needs.
Yeah, you're right. Vision is there mostly to set up future movies, but I think they do that They just do that generally much less gracefully in this one than they did in the first movie, and that contributes a lot to the kind of very unbalanced third act. That aside from the fact that the Sokovia scene is very long, it goes on for a while, and we've already been. The movie's already been kind of dragging before then.
Well, yeah, like when Chris said, we're not even at the climax yet, and there'd been 45 minutes of action.
I don't think I've ever grown so loud in my lifetime.
Well, I'm not saying like it's not a bad movie.
No,
it's just long.
Yeah,
in terms of how long, like, because we can only pay attention to the same thing for so long.
Right.
I think the problem is it doesn't justify its length either. Right?
Well, no, this movie very much is just to set up future movies. I
would say that.
I would argue that because Infinity War is set up, Endgame is set up, Thor Ragnarok is set up. Which is something else is probably set up as well. Like, but 4 movies being set up in one is
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Which I think that's kind of the price you pay when you go for this kind of MCU model, is if you want to kind of fulfill the
need
to sell these future movies within this movie, you need to sacrifice narrative cohesion.
You need to sacrifice narrative cohesion and the director's vision.
You have to sacrifice all that stuff. You have to keep up with what consumers want and what they want to see in movies. You have to make sure that the story makes sense still.
Yeah.
You have to set up the future ones that will further help like make the nerds happy.
Yeah. Which is also, I think, why cinematic universes, like, aside from the Marvel one, have mostly fallen on their face.
We'll take DC's, for example. They tried... The problem with DC's is that they tried to do the big gang up one first. Right?
Yeah.
No, like Justice League, they did Batman, and then Batman vs. Superman, and then bang, Justice League. It's like, well, where's the other stories?
Because I think the way Snyder wanted to do it was it was going to be Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League were going to be like a Superman trilogy, kind of, and Justice League was supposed to cap off that trilogy. I'm not defending these movies.
No, because Man of Steel was supposed to be the first one, I guess, is awful.
Man of Steel, I think half of it is really interesting and has the potential to be a really, really good movie, and then it just shits the bed in the second half.
Yeah.
But we will talk about these movies.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that.
Assuming we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think what Age of Ultron comes down to is it's a casualty of the need to sell other movies within one movie, and because of that, even though it does have good character moments and it does have endearing characters and some just cool action moments, ultimately it really loses the thread in the third act, or even partway through the second act, and it just kind of mounts up. It kind of ends up feeling like a drag.
Yeah. Okay, so Avengers Age of Ultron, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, I would have... I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Because for a couple things. One, because I really like the character development in this movie a lot. And the only real issues I have it are kind of not really, like, something to really pine over. Like certain lines that are said. Or, like, yes, Ultron isn't the best villain, but he's also not the worst I've seen.
Yeah.
Like... It's I give it I give it a thumbs up.
Okay. I'm gonna give it, if you had to put a gun to my head, I'd probably say barely a thumbs up.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But if I can just say middle of the road, I'm
like
going middle of the road.
Thumb
like thumb like sideways, I guess.
Like you're doing the hang loose but without the pinky.
Basically, like I'm very middle of the road on this.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like a straight up 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
For me personally, and for people who are already invested in these movies, I would give it a thumbs up, just because you probably will get something out of it.
Yeah.
And it's a fun time. It's your standard cape shit affair.
Well, yeah, like if you like you were saying, if you like the MCU, you're gonna like this movie.
Yeah. However, I'll also give the condition that if you're not invested in these movies, it's a hard thumbs down. I don't think that if you have the previous investment, which is kind of the downfall out of a kind of middling MCU movies, is if you don't have the prior investment, you're just not going to be that invested. So you're not going to want to watch it, and you probably shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, that's why I'm middle of the road.
Well, like being devil's advocate, even if you aren't invested in the MCU and you just want to go see a robot who talks, beat up on a bunch of people, fair enough. That's basically what this movie is. you'll still have a little bit of fun time. Like, the action sequences are fun to watch.
Yeah.
But like if you don't really know anything about the MCU, just go in not expecting a lot.
So yeah. So if you'd permit me to cheat, I would say it's somewhere between this and this. But if you have to, gun to my head, I would probably say again, slight thumbs up.
Yeah, no, like I'm with you on that. Like gun to my head, barely a thumbs up. But
Yeah.
Because I believe we should have middle of the road. I'm middle of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I would also say middle of the road if you're permitting me. But,
Oh, I mean, I think we should be allowed middle of the road.
Oh yeah, well you can't not the thumbs up, middle, thumbs down. It's
Yeah.
not. It's like a 3-point system. It's really simple.
Exactly.
All right.
So 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. All right. Well,
bonus content.
all right. So, I guess yeah. So the one thing I want to know before we wrap it up here, guys, is everyone knows that Endgame. Like we're going to be doing the review on Infinity War and Endgame next week.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that in Endgame, people are probably going to die. It's the end of a lot of contracts. Iron Man and Captain America, for example, their contracts are ended. Chris Hemsworth has said he might want to do more Thor movies. I know I've heard him say that.
I think it's going to depend on whether or not Taika Waititi comes back.
Well, it depends on a lot of things. But what I want to know from you guys is who do you think is going to die in the Endgame?
I think...
Besides, like, yes, Tony Stark is obviously going to die. Or something's going to happen with him.
I wouldn't be shocked if Gamora stayed dead. Same with Loki.
I think people who were killed in the previous movie that weren't dusted, like Loki, Gamora, Heimdall.
Well, I think
they're probably dead. I wouldn't be surprised if they came back.
The Russo brothers actually confirmed that Loki is now dead.
Oh, okay, so
they have confirmed 100% that he's not coming back. He's gone.
So then I'm assuming that Loki TV show is probably gonna be like a prequel thing.
I'm assuming so. Yes, like because there's that whole time frame where between the first Thor and Avengers where no one knows where he is.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be that. But yeah, so Loki's dead. Personally, the one who I think might die is the Hulk.
I don't think they're gonna.
Because I think they might because, like you were saying earlier, Universal still owns the rights to the Hulk.
Yeah.
So they might not be able to make a movie of him, and if he dies, that also cuts off the relationship with Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm saying it would. Like, I don't want him to die. It would suck if he died. I'd be really pissed. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying it might happen. The same thing with what's that? The Valkyrie character. What's her name?
Valkyrie.
Is that her name? I thought that was who she was. That's what she was.
That's just what they
actually
call
her name.
Her name is Valkyrie, and she's a Valkyrie. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
It's called writing.
But yeah, who do you guys think?
I think just from a narrative perspective, what you look for is people whose arcs are at or near their end.
Yeah.
So people like Tony Stark, who's kind of ending, like he's kind of reaping everything that has come his way so far. Captain America's arc is basically finished.
Yeah, like either Cap's gonna retire or he's gonna die.
Well, you were saying earlier, like not when we were recording, but you said that he might be sent back in time.
That was actually
that was me.
That's right. That was
friend Chris Penwell, who's
side
now
guest. Our side guest, Chris Penwell. Yeah, you were
he's
saying
literally just coming just to tease the next episode.
Well, he's gonna be with us on the next recording.
Yeah, he'll be.
So
you
get a
can sit with
little,
us if you want.
get a little snippet at the end here.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
anyway,
you were saying.
Fuck! I just lost the house. Okay. Go.
Yeah. So Chris, you were saying how that Captain America might be sent back in time and maybe potentially go with Agent Carter.
Yeah.
Which I think would be
it'd be a fitting end.
I think it'd be a very fantastic end fit.
Yeah.
However, they would have to change how Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. works then, because
Yes.
Agent Carter is one of the founding members of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But however, if they did figure out somehow to do that, like maybe she just does it on the side or something, I don't know.
Yeah. What I would say is like Captain America would fix Hydra, Hydra within S.H.I.E.L.D. So he'd try to oust them out of that organization.
Okay.
So that's probably what I'd see from it.
Another
like,
thing,
it wouldn't disrupt the current canon because that happened already before. You know, so time travel's weird.
It is weird like that.
Yeah.
Another thing I can see saying, because like Tony Stark is a very huge mentor to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And
Who
so
is coming back?
Who is coming back?
Yeah, he is. No,
Tom Holland.
Spider-Man is going to die. Far From Home is just a prequel.
Anybody who Disney is primed to make billions of dollars
yes,
off of is coming back.
Plus we also know Homecoming's coming out, and that's afterwards, right? So
no,
we know that stuff. But I feel like maybe they won't necessarily kill Tony Stark, but they'll leave him to where he's just a supporting role in the Spider-Man movies.
I think
If
they're gonna flat out kill
I
him.
think he's dead.
I
think,
well,
yeah.
well, yeah.
I think it's gonna be
I'm
a
saying, like,
sacrifice
like,
to
I'm-
finish Thanos off.
Like that would be where I'd imagine it was probably gonna go. But like if they decide to go the route where he's just like maybe not physically there, but like, he's just like the air quotes Uncle Ben to
Well,
yeah, and I wouldn't be
in the
shocked if they did that.
in
Spider-Man.
the comics, it's supposed to be Doctor Strange. So perhaps Doctor Strange could take on that mentor role for Peter Parker.
for
But
I'm not too sure.
no, but Robert Downey Jr.'s contract is ending. He's fucking dead. Well, I mean, Tony's fucking dead.
Yeah, Tony. Well, yeah, he's done. Regardless of what happens, I am super excited to see this movie.
I'm so psyched.
I am so pumped. It's the end of an era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the
'Cause-
end
'cause
of an
end of-
11-year and 22 movie era.
End of
Yeah.
phase 4.
3.
Yeah.
And more
Sorry,
importantly,
end of phase 3.
a like $10 billion era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, because
Disney is raping
and then after Avengers, it's what's Homecoming, because
Far From Home.
there's gonna be
Far from home, yeah.
Far from home.
sorry,
yeah.
Far From Home is what I mean.
Black
Spider-Man,
Panther
there's
2.
gonna be Spider-Man, Captain Marvel 2. There's gonna be a Guardians 3,
A Black Widow movie.
Black Widow movie. There's gonna be a Black Panther 2 most
And then there's
likely.
one based on an Asian kind of character. I can't remember. What it was.
What's his name?
They were shooting. I've heard they're shooting it
Shen
recently.
Li, something like that.
Shen Li.
Yeah,
Let's just
Oh,
get
something
this
like
up
that.
before
Something like
we...
that.
Yeah, because like there's gonna be more Avengers movies, but it'll probably be called like the New Avengers, right? Which
Yeah.
is the actual. I think the actual
That's an
name.
That'd be a
actual-
good way
that's
to
an actual
rebrand
thing.
it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, exactly, right. It's a great way. Like this, Marvel isn't gonna stop making movies once
No.
Endgame's over.
No, they're gonna milk this for all it's worth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. That's
There's
it.
also a lot of things they haven't like touched on yet. Adam from the end of Guardians 2, for example.
Adam
Oh, yeah.
Warlock, yeah.
Adam
Adam
Warlock,
Warlock.
who, fun fact,
Who is-
originally was like a much bigger in the comics was a much bigger part of like the Infinity War arc,
Mm-hmm.
but they cut him out because
Isn't he also
they're not
like?
gonna
Sorry, go ahead.
they're not gonna like insert this character all of a sudden and make him the
All powerful one.
all powerful one because like there's no build up to him.
Captain Marvel.
Well, Captain Marvel, like shitty as the build up was for Captain Marvel, like there's more
Yep. Have you
there's
seen
more
it, Chris?
build up for her.
Which one?
Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you've seen. Okay.
Yeah,
It's absolutely fine.
whatever you would say about the backstory for Captain Marvel, like there's more build up for her to be in that movie than
Mhm.
Adam Warlock.
Well, I think she's gonna be an
Well,
awesome
isn't-
leader of the new Avengers.
isn't-
if they ever do.
I
Yes,
think so too.
Well,
I think so too.
she's gonna be as powerful as Thor, right? Well,
Yeah.
isn't Adam Warlock supposed to be the leader of the New Avengers,
Mm,
or like
he's not real-
is equal in power to Captain Marvel?
He's very powerful, maybe as powerful as Captain Marvel in the comics. And I'm not an expert in him, but I don't think he's that associated with the Avengers. Like he's very much
Maybe the
a
Guardians.
major character in the Infinity Gauntlet arc, and after that, you don't really hear about.
So
him anymore.
okay, well if he's part of that, then he's definitely gonna be in Endgame. If I would assume so. If
I don't
that's-
think he's
if
gonna
that's
be in
the
Endgame.
comics.
I think it would be.
I would hope so.
I don't think he's gonna be in Endgame, and I'm kind of glad he's not because that's a lot to drop like all of a sudden.
Yeah, like
Captain
I s-
Marvel and then Adam Warlock.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, you know, like in 2012, like, oh, how are they going to be able to balance 6 characters? Now it's like, how
How
are they
they
going to
balance
balance
40?
45 fucking characters, essentially?
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of character arcs that have to be finished.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
besides, if we're gonna like pull characters out of our asses, I would be very infuriated if they pull out Adam Warlock before Moon Knight.
But, yeah, so next week we'll be talking about Avengers Infinity War
Yeah.
and then lead straight into Avengers Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we'll talk about this next week as well, but there will be spoilers next week as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not
Oh, yeah.
shying away from anything.
Yep.
So if you want to go see Endgame, and I know Infinity War came out last year too, so there's going to be spoilers for both. If you haven't seen either of them or one of them,
Well, I found that
don't watch next week's episode.
well, exactly. Well, at least until you've seen it.
Before we record next week's episode, I'd like to have a prediction of like what score you'd give it.
Okay, sure.
Okay, that's actually interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the same thumbs up, thumbs down system, or do you want to do out of 10 and stuff like that?
Let's do thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, sure.
I think I'm gonna give it a huge thumbs up. I think.
I'm probably gonna like it. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it most of the, especially the Russo Avengers stuff, has been consistently good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know to what extent I'm gonna like it, but I'm probably gonna like it.
I'll give it a thumbs up,
Like
but
some major-
I feel like there's a possibility of it disappointing because like there's
I think
so
that's
much.
very much a
There's
possibility.
There's
much
so much-
anticipation.
There's a lot of hype,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I found everything like at least because like I don't go on a lot of social media, and that's just my own
Yeah.
personal preference because I don't really like social media. But even me, like I got a lot of, I guess, Infinity War hype when it first came out, and I'm not getting as much as I am now. Like I'm getting less hype for Endgame than I is for Infinity War.
Honestly, I just keep forgetting it's like 3 days away.
And mainly because I think that it's the first time you actually see Thanos in Infinity War, and that everyone's seen Thanos. It's kind of like, okay, so now it's like,
yeah.
Also, I'm like,
what's happening?
I'm like just generally like not as hyped up for these movies as I was like 5 years ago.
Well, exactly.
And that's mostly because I'm jaded.
Look
But
at that. It is 2019.
because we're assholes.
Yeah.
It's 2019. I'm 21 years old. 2019.
Yeah.
7 years ago is when the first Avengers came out.
Yeah.
I was
Oh my
fucking
God.
14.
I was 15
Like,
when that shit
Of
came
course,
out.
our attitudes and like excitement is going to be completely different.
And also, we've been bombarded with superhero shit
Completely.
since
Yeah.
2008. Whether it be Marvel or DC or fucking whatever.
However, this like semi reboot that they could do after Endgame could reboot the franchise in a way for people who are more jaded towards the series.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
good.
believe that.
Um,
Like they're gonna have to find a way to keep it going, and they also brought in the X-Men and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Well,
now-
think about this as well. Is like, yes, this is the end of an era for us.
Yeah.
However, it's the start of an era for all the kids who are now
Yeah.
12 years old who are like
It's like
gonna,
the Star
gonna
Wars
see
series,
the
right?
movies, gonna see the Spider-Man movies and the Captain Marvel movies
Yeah.
after
Fresh
Avengers.
meat.
So these are the new Avengers, right? These
Yeah.
are the Iron Man ones, the Thor ones, the Thor 3s of that generation now.
You guys, it's
Of
never going
people.
to end.
Oh God, no.
It is never going to end.
No, it's been, and now that it's been done, no.
We are going to see fucking Iron Man movies until the heat death of the motherfucking
I remember
universe.
seeing the first Iron Man. When I first saw it, it was great.
Anyway, I didn't give my rating prediction. I think best case scenario, it's going to be a huge thumbs up for me. Worst case scenario, middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
My
Worst
biggest
case, yeah.
fear is that everyone is alive at the end of it.
Oh, fuck.
I would be
And
very
there's
upset.
no resolution.
If-
Yeah.
if
Thing.
If there's no...
Like, there's no stakes
Yeah.
at all, and that's what I'm really afraid
If
of.
that happens, I'm going full anti-capitalist
No.
mode at the end of the next episode.
No,
Just fair
if-
warning.
If they do that, I would give it a huge thumbs down. That would
Yeah.
ruin the entire
Honestly,
thing.
yeah.
That would ruin the entire
Like if
fucking movie.
Gamora comes back alive, if
Oh,
Loki's
Okay,
not
okay,
dead,
no,
you
no,
know?
Loki.
Like-
Like I was telling them, Loki's been confirmed dead,
Yeah.
so he's gone.
Okay.
He's been confirmed.
Okay.
Gamora, I can see coming back for one reason, and that's Guardians 3,
Yeah.
because they have Guardians 3, and it's not going to be the same.
But
Without
Gamora
her?
might not
No,
even
but
be
I
there.
honestly, I think.
But
Guardians-
think about how that would change Quill's character.
No, I think
For
that would
better,
actually.
I think.
I don't know.
For the
I don't
better.
know.
100%. I think that would be an interesting development
Yeah,
for
because
Peter.
Quill is a shithead, and this could help him mature.
Well, that's
Exactly.
and that's I guess that's one thing we'll talk about next week
But
is
that's,
where everyone's characters are going to go after
Yes,
this.
but that's So,
So-
but
Yeah.
tune in next week. It will be very spoiler
Yes.
heavy.
Thank you everybody for joining us on this episode of Sequel Decay. This was the first two Avengers movies.
Join us next week for the next two.
Yeah. Hope you guys all had a fun time.
I'll see you there.
See you
See
next
ya.
week.
See ya.